Basically, of course, I admit that the singular personal pronouns applied to God in chapter 1, refer to the Father of Jesus, because it's stated that it says God has spoken through the prophets in many portions and in many ways in these last days has spoken to us in his Son, appointed over all things, through whom also he made the worlds. So God made the worlds through his Son. I do see the word God quite often like a proper name for the Father. And that, again, that's emphasis that the Father never became incarnate. He's simply God, and he's referred to as God over and over again in the Gospels and the New Testament. So that's no problem. Jesus is referred to as Lord, and I've made that point very strong in the previous debate. Jesus is called Lord. The Father is very rarely called Lord in the New Testament, probably never in Paul's writings, which is very strange. If the name of God in the Old Testament, the Greek Septuagint, is Lord or Kurios, why would Paul neglect that if he believed that the Father is the Unitarian God? So I do believe the singular personal pronouns apply to the Father and the Son in Hebrews. He says, "Today have I begotten you. I will be a father to him. You'll be a son to me," etc. So this is the Father being referred to as a he. And in contrast to that, the Father calls the Son God and Lord and worshipped by the angels and all these things. So we have to take the whole of Hebrews chapter 1, and that's what I did in this debate. Really emphasize what is the intention of the author, and not Trinitarian creedal language later on that came. I'm not trying to give my own Trinitarian bias, but I wanted to show forth what the author meant as inspired by the Holy Spirit.
I'll quote Carl Henry, the noted evangelical Carl, C-A-R-L, Henry. He said that some critics consider orthodox representations of the Trinity a mathematical monstrosity. The Trinity, they contend, is as fallacious in its claim for the three-in-one God as is the formula 3x equals 1x. Now, my opponent has once again conceded an incredible thing. Verses like Isaiah 44:24 can refer to the Trinity. Again, that's 3x equals 1x. I don't know how many times I can say this. When you say that a singular personal pronoun equals three selves, so by myself, right, in Isaiah 44:24, if we're talking about who is the creator, or really the question is how many creators are there in that phrase, by myself. So my opponent, I'm afraid to say, resorts to a mathematical monstrosity. That's Carl Henry, the noted Protestant. So I appeal to the viewer to listen to both sides and think about these things. This is of supreme importance, as Ethan stated, knowing who God is, or how many God is, and knowing who his Son is. Is he also a second Yahweh, a second figure of a Trinitarian God?